Hey fellow nerds, today we are going to learn properties of continuous time Fourier transform. We'll be covering conjugate and conjugate symmetry, linearity, time shifting, differentiation, integration, differentiation in frequency domain, time scaling, time reversal, duality, Parseval's relation, convolution property, and multiplication property. Let us start by revisiting Fourier transform pair. We had a synthesis equation that is x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. And we had an analysis equation x of j omega is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. From now, we'll be showing the relation between x of t and x of j omega like this. We will use a double-sided arrow with an f on top of it. That means x of j omega is the Fourier transform of x of t and x of t is the inverse Fourier transform of x of j omega. Let us start with linearity property. According to this property, if x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs and y of t and y of j omega are Fourier transform pairs, then the Fourier transform of a x of t plus b y of t will be a x of j omega plus b y of j omega. Let us prove this. Using the analysis equation, we can write x of j omega is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Also, y of j omega will be integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let us take z of t to be a linear combination of x of t and y of t, that is ax of t plus by of t. The Fourier transform of z of t, z of j omega will be integral from minus infinity to infinity ax of t plus by of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. We can split the integration into two. So we get integral from minus infinity to infinity ax of t e raised to minus j omega t dt plus integral from minus infinity to infinity by of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. But a is a constant, b is a constant. Let's take both of them out of the integration. What we have over here is x of j omega and what we have over here is y of j omega. So z of j omega is simply a x of j omega plus b y of j omega, and that is our proof. Let's move on to the next property, that is time shifting. According to time shifting property, if x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs, then the Fourier transform of x of t minus t naught will be e raised to minus j omega t naught x of j omega. That means a time shift in a signal introduces a phase shift in its transform. Let's prove this. We know x of j omega can be written like this, integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let us take y of t to be the time shifted version of x of t, that is x of t minus t naught. Then we can write y of j omega like this. It will be integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t minus t naught e raised to minus j omega t dt. Now let's do a trick. Let us take t minus t naught is equal to m. Then t will become m plus t naught. Then dt will become dm. because dt will be dm plus dt naught, but t naught is a constant, so dt naught is 0, so we get dt is equal to dm. Let's apply that in our equation for y of j omega. So y of j omega becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t minus t naught is m, e raised to minus j omega t is now m plus t naught, dt is dm. Here we have e raised to minus j omega into m plus t naught. We can split it into two. E raised to minus j omega m multiplied by e raised to minus j omega t naught. Then the equation will become like this. Now the integration is based on the variable m, and e raised to minus j omega t naught doesn't have anything to do with m. So it is a constant. We can take it out of the integration. What we have over here is nothing but x of j omega. We have written x of j omega is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. And here we have integral from minus infinity to infinity x of m e raised to minus j omega m dm. The only difference is the variable is t here, the variable is m here. But we have already seen before, it doesn't matter what you call the variables to which you're finally giving the limits anyway. So this is the same as this, and it is x of j omega. So y of j omega is e raised to minus j omega t naught multiplied by x of j omega. So that is our proof. Let us solve a problem now. We have to find the Fourier transform of x of t. X of t is given over here on a graph. This is actually a tricky question. To solve it, first consider these two rectangular signals. The first one, I'm calling it x1 of t. It has 1 from minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2 and 0 everywhere else. The second one is x2 of t. It has 1 from minus 3 by 2 to 3 by 2. It has 0 everywhere else. We can see that x of t is actually a linear combination of x1 of t and x2 of t. If we put x1 of t at the middle of x2 of t over here, we'll actually get the same shape, but then we'll also have to shift it a little bit towards the right to get x of t. Their relation would be x of t is equal to half of x1 of t minus 2.5 plus x2 of t minus 2.5. The t minus 2.5 in both of these is simply to shift the signal 2.5 units towards the right, so it will be centered at 2.5. The values here, as you can see, is 1, so we will take x2 of t for that. x2 of t is giving 1. But in the middle we want 1.5. That is an extra half is required. But x1 of t is giving 1, so to get half, we multiplied it with half. That's how x of t is half of x1 of t minus 2.5 plus x2 of t minus 2.5. In one of the problems we solved in the last video, we have seen that for a rectangular pulse who has non-zero values from minus t1 to t1, its Fourier transform is given like this. X of j omega is 2 sine omega t1 divided by omega. We can directly use that to write the Fourier transform of x1 of t and x2 of t. x1 of j omega here will be 2 sine omega t1. T1 here is 1 by 2. So omega by 2 divided by omega. The same way, x2 of j omega will be 2 sine t1 here is 3 by 2. So 3 omega by 2 divided by omega. What we actually want is the Fourier transform of half x1 of t minus 2.5 plus x2 of t minus 2.5. We can use linearity property and time shifting property here. So x of j omega will be, first term is half x1 of t minus 2.5. So half into Fourier transform of x1 of t is 2 sine omega by 2 by omega. So Fourier transform of x1 of t minus 2.5 using time shifting property will be e raised to minus 2.5 omega x1 of j omega plus Fourier transform of x2 of t minus 2.5 will similarly be e raised to minus 2.5 omega x2 of j omega. Here e raised to minus 2.5 omega is the extra e raised to minus omega t naught we have to add because of the time shift of t naught units. And t naught here is 2.5. We can take e raised to minus 2.5 omega out because it is common in both terms and give the expressions for x1 of j omega and x2 of j omega from here. We get the final answer. X of j omega is e raised to minus 2 omega multiplied by half times 2 sine omega by 2 by omega. 2 and 2 can get cancelled. We get sine omega by 2 divided by omega plus x2 of j omega, which is 2 sine 3 omega by 2 by omega. So we have 2 sine 3 omega by 2 divided by omega, and this is our final answer. The next property we have to learn is conjugate and conjugate symmetry. According to this property, if x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs, then x conjugate of t is the Fourier transform pair of x conjugate of minus omega. Let's try to prove this. We know x of j omega is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. What if I want x conjugate of j omega? All I have to do is make all the j's minus j. So it becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t. But we don't know if x of t is complex or not. Assuming x of t is complex, x of t will also be taken as x conjugate of t. So this becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to plus j omega t dt. X of t became x conjugate of t minus j became plus j. Now I want x conjugate of minus j omega. To do that, all I have to do is convert j to minus j. So the equation becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. This is our typical analysis equation. So x conjugate of minus j omega is actually the Fourier transform of x conjugate of t. And that is our proof. Now let us see a special case of this property. If x of t is real, then x of minus j omega is equal to x conjugate of j omega. This can be very easily proved. We can write x of j omega is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Now if I want x of minus j omega, all I have to do is change j to minus j. So this becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to plus j omega t dt. But now I want x conjugate of j omega. We have x of j omega here. To take x conjugate of j omega, I'll have to take x conjugate of t and conjugate of e raised to minus j omega t, which can be obtained if I simply change minus j to plus j. So this is integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to plus j omega t dt. But we have a condition here, x of t is real. So x of t and x conjugate of t are equal. So this is simply integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to j omega t dt. Now, if you take a look at these two equations, you can see they are the same, which means x of minus j omega is equal to x conjugate of j omega. And this is called conjugate symmetry. There are actually some more relations we can derive from the same property. If x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs and x of t is real, then real part of x of j omega will be equal to real part of x of minus j omega. Imaginary part of x of j omega will be equal to negative of imaginary part of x of minus j omega. Magnitude of x of j omega will be equal to magnitude of x of minus j omega. Phase of x of j omega will be negative of phase of x of minus j omega. The proof of this is pretty simple. X of j omega can be written as integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Then you can write x of minus j omega like this. Change j to minus j. You get integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to j omega t dt. But x of t is real, so instead of x of t, I can write x conjugate of t because x of t and x conjugate of t are the same. Integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to j omega t dt. But comparing this equation with this equation, I can see I took the conjugate of x of t. I also took the conjugate of e raised to minus j omega t by changing minus j to j. So this is actually just x conjugate of, this is what we just proved before. This is x of j omega and this is x conjugate of j omega. Let us take x of j omega to be a plus jb, just for our understanding. Then x conjugate of j omega will be a minus jb. Obviously, you can see their real parts will be equal. That is the first property. Real part of x of j omega will be real part of x of minus j omega. Imaginary part is b here, it is minus b here. That is what we have written. Imaginary part of x of j omega is negative of imaginary part of x of minus j omega. Magnitude of a plus jb will be root of a square plus b square. Magnitude of a minus jb will also be root of a square plus b square. That's what we have written here. Magnitude of x of j omega is equal to magnitude of x of minus j omega. Coming to phase. Phase of a plus jb is tan inverse b by a. Phase of a minus jb is tan inverse of minus b by a or minus of tan inverse b by a. That's what we have written here. Phase of x of j omega is negative of phase of x of minus j omega. There are actually two more consequences of the same property. If x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pair and x of t is real, then the Fourier transform of even part of x of t will be the real part of x of j omega. Also, the Fourier transform of odd part of x of t will be j times imaginary part of x of j omega. Let us prove the first part. Even part of a signal x of t can be written like this. It is simply x of t plus x of minus t divided by 2. Now, what we want is the Fourier transform of even part of x of t. Using linearity property, this is simply going to be x of j omega plus x of minus j omega divided by 2. X of j omega is the Fourier transform of x of t. X of minus j omega is that of x of minus t. But we just learned x of minus j omega is equal to x conjugate of j omega. If we use that here, we get x of j omega plus x conjugate of j omega divided by 2. Now, if x of j omega is of the form a plus jb, then x conjugate of j omega is a minus jb. If you add both of them, the imaginary parts cancel. You get 2a divided by 2, you just get a, which is the real part. So, x of j omega plus x conjugate of j omega by 2 will simply give you the real part of x of j omega. Now, odd part of x of t is x of t minus x of minus t divided by 2. Here we want the Fourier transform of odd component of x of t. Using linearity property, this is going to be x of j omega minus x of minus j omega divided by 2. But x of minus j omega is x conjugate of j omega. So this becomes x of j omega minus x conjugate of j omega divided by 2. Again, if x of j omega is a plus gb, x conjugate of j omega will be a minus gb. If you subtract this from that, a and a gets cancelled. You will get jb plus jb, that is 2jb, divided by 2, you will get jb, that is j times the imaginary part. So what you get here will be j times imaginary part of x of j omega. Let us now solve a problem. We have to write the Fourier transform of x of t, which is e raised to minus a mod t, and a is a positive number. In the last video, we have already computed the Fourier transform of e raised to minus at. We got 1 by a plus j omega. We are going to use that and the properties we learned to find out the Fourier transform of e raised to minus a mod t. Here x of t is e raised to minus a modulus of t, but modulus of t can be written as minus t for t less than 0 and plus t for t greater than 0. So we are going to split it that way. For t less than 0, we can write e raised to minus a multiplied by minus t. To show that this is only for t less than 0, we will put u of minus t here, plus e raised to minus a. For t greater than 0, mod t is plus t. To show that this is for t greater than 0, we'll multiply it with u of t. Now, I'm going to take this, multiply it with 2 and divide it with 2. Before that, here we have minus a into minus t. We can write it as at. So what we have here is e raised to at u of minus t plus e raised to minus at u of t divided by 2. Now, if I call this one y of t, then this will become y of minus t. Because here I have minus at, here I have plus at. Here I have plus t, here I have minus t. So this is basically y of t plus y of minus t divided by 2, which should give us the even part of y of t. So this becomes even part of y of t. I have taken this as y of t and this as y of minus t. So I will write e raised to minus at u of t multiplied by 2 from here. We know e raised to minus at u of t is real, so we can use the symmetry properties. That is, Fourier transform of even part of x of t is simply the real part of x of j omega. Applying that here, Fourier transform of even part of e raised to minus at u of t will be the real part of Fourier transform of e raised to minus at u of t. Here it is 1 by a plus j omega. We know 1 by a plus j omega can be written like this, multiplied with a minus j omega divided with a minus j omega. So on the numerator, you get a minus j omega. On the denominator, you get a plus j omega multiplied by a minus j omega is a square plus omega square. Splitting the terms, a by a square plus omega square minus j omega by a square plus omega square. So this is the real part, this is the imaginary part. So we can write x of j omega is equal to real part of 1 by a plus j omega, that is a by a square plus omega square. The next property is differentiation. If x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs, then according to this property, Fourier transform of dx of t by dt will be j omega x of j omega. That is, differentiation in time domain is simply multiplication of j omega in frequency domain. Let us prove this. Using synthesis equation, we can write x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. Now, if I differentiate both sides of this equation, I will get this. Dx of t by dt will be d by dt of this entire equation. 1 by 2 pi is a constant. I'm going to take that out of the differentiation. Now, the only term here that has anything to do with t is e raised to j omega t. So, I'm going to bring d by dt there. So, we get 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega d by dt of e raised to j omega t d omega. So, this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega d by dt of e raised to j omega t is j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. Comparing this with the general synthesis equation, we can see that the only difference is instead of x of j omega, here we have x of j omega multiplied by j omega. So if x of j omega is the Fourier transform of x of t, then x of j omega multiplied by j omega is that of d by dt of x of t. The next property is integration. If x of t and x of j omega are Fourier transform pairs, then according to this property, Fourier transform of integral from minus infinity to t x of tau d tau is going to be 1 by j omega x of j omega plus pi x of 0 delta of omega. To prove this, let us start with the synthesis equation. X of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. Let us integrate both sides of this equation from minus infinity to t. On the left hand side, we get integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau d tau, and on the right hand side, we have integral from minus infinity to t 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega tau d omega d tau. One obvious thing is that I have changed t into tau everywhere, but that is okay because our limits are from minus infinity to t. So finally, when you give the limit, they will become functions of t. Now, first thing is 1 by 2 pi is a constant. I'll take it out of the integration. We have two integrations. Let us change the order of integration. We change the order of integration and dt came here, d omega came here. Now over here we have integral from minus infinity to t x of j omega e raised to j omega tau d tau. The integration is based on the variable tau. X of j omega doesn't have anything to do with tau, so it is a constant with respect to that and we can take it out of the integration. Now all we have to do here is integral from minus infinity to t e raised to j omega tau d tau. So this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega. Integral of e raised to j omega tau is 1 by j omega e raised to j omega tau. We have to give it limits from minus infinity to t. Then there is a d omega. Now if you give the limits, giving the upper limit t, we get e raised to j omega t, minus giving the lower limit, we get e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So this is simply e raised to j omega t. So our equation becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega multiplied by 1 by j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. Comparing with our original synthesis equation, if x of j omega is the Fourier transform of x of t, then x of j omega divided by j omega is the Fourier transform of integral from minus infinity to t x of tau d tau. But over here you can see there is one more term in the Fourier transform, pi x of 0 delta of omega. That is to accommodate for the fact that when we usually take integration of something, we write the function plus a constant. So this corresponds to the Fourier transform of the function. This corresponds to the Fourier transform of the constant. The constant c is actually the DC value or the average value or the initial value of our function x of t. So to accommodate for that, we have pi x of 0 delta of omega. Pi is a constant, x of 0 is a constant. So we can see that this is an impulse function with magnitude pi x of 0. So this term will give our Fourier transform a spike at omega equal to 0 and its amplitude is going to be pi x of 0. So the impulse term in the RHS shows the DC value or the initial value of our function. Let us now solve a problem. It is given that the function g of t is delta of t, which is our impulse function, and its Fourier transform g of j omega is equal to 1. What we have to find out is the Fourier transform of x of t, which is equal to the unit step function u of t. We have an important relationship between delta of t and u of t. So we can use the integration property. Then x of j omega is going to be g of j omega divided by j omega plus pi g of 0 delta of omega. But g of j omega is 1, so this becomes 1 by j omega plus pi multiplied by g of 0. G of j omega is a constant, it is 1 everywhere, so g of 0 is also 1. Multiplied by delta of omega. So x of j omega is simply 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. Let us try to do the opposite. We have a function x of t, which is the unit step function u of t. Its Fourier transform is x of j omega, which is 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. We got it from here. Then we have to find out the Fourier transform of g of t, which is the impulse function delta of t. Now here we can use the relation between delta of t and u of t. Delta of t is simply d by dt of u of t. Using that, we get g of j omega will be equal to j omega multiplied by x of j omega. That is j omega multiplied by 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. So this becomes j omega multiplied by 1 by j omega 1 plus j omega multiplied by pi delta of omega. So j pi omega delta of omega. But what is omega delta of omega? Delta of omega is an impulse function which is 0 everywhere except at omega equal to 0. But at omega equal to 0, omega is 0. So the product is going to be 0 for all values of omega. So this becomes 1 plus 0. g of j omega is 1 as we had here. Let us solve another problem. We have to find the Fourier transform of x of t. X of t is given over here on this graph. First, let us define a function g of t, which is the derivative of x of t. Derivative of a graph gives us the slope of it, and here we can see from -1 to 1, x of t has a positive slope. This is 1, this is 1, so the slope of this line is 1. So I can plot g of t like this. But this is not entirely correct, because if you take a closer look, at -1, the slope suddenly changes from 1 to 0. At 1 also, the slope suddenly changes from 1 to 0. So to show the sudden change, we'll have to add two impulses of magnitude -1 at -1 and +1 like this. These two impulses will show that there is a sudden change of slope from 1 to 0 at -1 and 1. What we have over here is an impulse function shifted 1 units towards the left and its magnitude is -1. So this will be minus delta of t plus 1. What we have over here is an impulse function shifted towards right 1 units and magnitude is -1. So it will be minus delta of t minus 1. Now we want to find out g of j omega. The first part of g of t is a rectangular function. And we have already found that its Fourier transform is of the form 2 sine omega t1 divided by omega. Here t1 is 1, so it will simply become 2 sine omega divided by omega. To this, we have to add the Fourier transform of minus delta of t plus 1. We know Fourier transform of delta of t is 1, so that of minus delta of t will be minus 1. What we want here is the Fourier transform of minus delta of t plus 1. There is a time shift. According to time shifting property, the Fourier transform will be e raised to minus j omega t naught multiplied by the original Fourier transform, which is 1 here. Here t naught is minus 1. Applying that here, we get e raised to j omega. But this is minus delta of t plus 1. So this will be minus e raised to j omega. Let us add it to g of j omega minus e raised to j omega. Similarly, we want the Fourier transform of minus delta of t minus 1. For minus delta of t minus 1, t naught is plus 1. So we will get minus e raised to minus j omega. Let's add it here, minus e raised to minus j omega. According to Euler's formula, e raised to j omega will be cos omega plus j sine omega. And e raised to minus j omega will be cos omega minus j sine omega. If we add these two, the imaginary part will get cancelled and all we get is 2 cos omega. So g of j omega becomes 2 sine omega by omega minus e raised to j omega plus e raised to minus j omega. And this sum will simply become 2 cos omega. Since g of t is the derivative of x of t will be the integration of g of t. So using integration property, we can write x of j omega will be g of j omega divided by j omega plus the dc component pi g of 0 delta of omega. To calculate this, we need g of 0. So g of 0 will be 2 sine 0 divided by 0 minus 2 cos 0. Now this is of the form 0 by 0, which is indefinite. So what we usually do is apply limit. So instead of writing sine 0 by 0, we can write limit omega tends to 0, sine omega by omega. Now this is equal to 1 and cos 0 is also equal to 1. So g of 0 is simply 2 minus 2 or 0. Therefore, x of j omega simply becomes g of j omega divided by j omega. So we can write g of j omega is 2 sine omega divided by j omega. So we get j omega square minus 2 cos omega divided by j omega. The next property is time scaling. According to time scaling property, if x of t and x of j omega are a Fourier transform pair, then Fourier transform of x of a t will be 1 by mod a x of j omega by a. Let us prove it. X of j omega can be written like this: integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let us take y of t to be equal to x of at, which is a time scaled version of x of t. Then we can write y of j omega will be integral from minus infinity to infinity x of at e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let us take at to be equal to tau. Then differentiating on both sides, a dt will be equal to d tau. So y of j omega becomes this: integral from minus infinity to infinity x of at becomes x of tau e raised to minus j omega. T is tau by a, so tau by a. dt is d tau divided by a. We got that from here. Now 1 by a is a constant, we can take it out of the integration. We know it doesn't matter what we are calling the variable to which we are finally going to give the limit. So we have tau here, here and here. We can simply call it t. We have omega into t by a here. We can write it as omega by a multiplied by t. We have integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega by a t dt here. Comparing that with our original analysis equation, we can see the only difference is instead of omega, we have omega by a here. Now, we have learned about time scaling before. Time scaling is supposed to expand or compress the signal. It is not supposed to reverse the amplitude. So, if a is negative here, the amplitude will become negative. We do not want that to happen. So, to account for that, we will take magnitude of a. So y of j omega is simply 1 by mod a multiplied by x of j omega by a. The next property is time reversal. If x of t and x of j omega are a Fourier transform pair, then according to this property, Fourier transform of x of minus t will be x of minus j omega. From the time scaling property, we have Fourier transform of x of at is 1 by mod of a x of j omega by a. If you give a is equal to minus 1, then you get x of minus t, which is time reversal. So to prove the time reversal property, simply put a is equal to minus 1. Then we can write Fourier transform of x of minus t will be 1 by mod of minus 1 x of j omega divided by minus 1. Mod of minus 1 is 1. So this is equal to x of minus j omega. Let's move on to the next property, which is duality. According to duality property, for any Fourier transform pair, there is a dual pair with time and frequency variables interchanged. Let us take an example. These are from two problems that we solved in the last video. We got that for an x of t that looks like this, we get an x of j omega that looks like this. And for an x of t that looks like this, we got an x of j omega that looks like this. We can say that this is a dual pair for this Fourier transform pair. Or this is the dual pair for this Fourier transform pair. Let us solve a problem using this. It is given that x of t is e raised to minus mod of t and its Fourier transform x of j omega is 2 by 1 plus omega square. What we have to find out is the Fourier transform of g of t, and g of t is 2 by 1 plus t square. You can see that 2 by 1 plus t square is actually 2 by 1 plus omega square with omega replaced by t. First, let us write down the synthesis equation for x of t, which is e raised to minus mod t. According to the synthesis equation, x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega t dt. But here x of t is e raised to minus mod t. Let us change that. Also, x of j omega is 2 by 1 plus omega square. Let us change that. Let's take this 2 pi to the other side. We get 2 pi e raised to minus mod of t is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity 2 by 1 plus omega square e raised to j omega t dt. Let us do something tricky here. Take m is equal to minus t. Then the equation becomes like this. On the left hand side, we have 2 pi e raised to minus mod of t is minus m now. So mod of minus m. This is equal to integral. Limit of t is from minus infinity to infinity. Since m is minus t, its limit will be from infinity to minus infinity. 2 by 1 plus omega square e raised to j omega t is minus m, so minus m. Now dt will be minus dm because here dm is equal to minus dt, so dt is minus dm. But the limit is from infinity to minus infinity. We want to switch it back. So to switch it back, you will have to introduce a negative. Negative integral from minus infinity to infinity. But then there is already a negative here. You can cancel them. So simply this becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity 2 by 1 plus omega square e raised to minus j omega m dm. But m here is the variable to which you're going to give the limit anyways. So why don't we just call it t? Let's change all m's into t. If you compare this equation with this equation, all we basically did is change t to minus t. T here became minus t. T here became minus t. So instead of doing all these mathematics trick, let's just write replace t by minus t. This works because simply replacing t by minus t is equivalent to taking t equals minus m and doing all those math. So we don't have to keep doing it. We can just replace t by minus t. So we don't have to keep doing this if such a situation comes in the future. We can just replace t by minus t and know that the equation is still going to be equal to the original one. Now let us use duality property and interchange the names of the variables t and omega. Instead of t, we'll take omega, and instead of omega, we'll take t. So the left hand side becomes like this 2 pi e raised to minus mod of minus omega, that is just mod of omega. This is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity 2 by 1 plus omega square becomes t square e raised to minus j omega becomes t, t becomes omega. So the product is still omega t, dt becomes d omega. Let us compare this with an analysis equation. y of j omega is given as integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus j omega t d omega. So we can call this y of j omega, then this will be y of t. That is what we just got here is the Fourier transform of 2 by 1 plus t square. Therefore, 2 by 1 plus t square and 2 pi e raised to minus mod omega are the dual pair of e raised to minus mod t and 2 by 1 plus omega square. The next property we have to learn is differentiation in a frequency domain. If x of t and x of j omega are a frequency transform pair, then according to this property, Fourier transform of t x of t is j d by d omega of x of j omega. We will prove this using duality property. In differentiation property, we have already learned that the Fourier transform of d by dt of x of t is j omega x of j omega. Or we can write this as omega multiplied by j x of j omega. Now let us use the dual of differentiation property, that is interchange the variables omega and t. We will get the Fourier transform of d by d omega of j x of j omega will be t multiplied by x of t. Let's compare the two equations. Here we took d by dt of x of t. Here we took d by d omega of j x of j omega. Here we got omega, instead of that we put t. Here we put j x of j omega, instead of which we took x of t. D by dt of x of t gave us omega multiplied by j x of j omega. If we do the opposite, d by d omega of j x of j omega gave us t multiplied by x of t. The next thing we have to learn is Parseval's relation. According to this, if x of t and x of j omega are a Fourier transform pair, then integral from minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of t squared dt will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of j omega square d omega. Let us prove the relation first and then try to understand what it means. Let us start from the left hand side. We have integral from minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of t whole square dt. But magnitude of x of t whole square can be written as the product of x of t and x conjugate of t. To understand how, take x of t to be a plus jb, then its conjugate will be a minus jb. If you multiply them, you get a square plus b square. But what is the magnitude of x of t or a plus jb? It is root of a square plus b square. So you can see the product of x of t and x conjugate of t is actually square of its magnitude. Using this idea, we can write here integral from minus infinity to infinity. Magnitude of x of t whole square is x of t multiplied by x conjugate of t dt. Now, according to the synthesis equation, we can write x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to minus j omega t d omega. Then x conjugate of t will simply be 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega should become x conjugate of j omega. E raised to minus j omega t should become e raised to plus j omega t d omega. Let us use this expression for x conjugate of t over here. Then our equation becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t multiplied by 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of j omega e raised to j omega t d omega dt. 1 by 2 pi is a constant. Let's take it out of the integration. There are two integrations. Let's put them together. So this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity, integral from minus infinity to infinity, x of t, x conjugate of j omega, e raised to j omega t, d omega dt. Now this one corresponds to dt and this one corresponds to d omega. Let us change the order of integration. So we'll get something that looks like this. We will do integration with respect to t first and then omega. Now x conjugate of j omega doesn't have anything to do with t, so we can take it out of the pink integration. E raised to j omega t has t in it, so it has to be inside. X of t is anyways a function of time, so it also has to be inside. Let us take a look at the inner integration now. Integral from minus infinity to infinity, x of t e raised to j omega t dt. This is familiar to us. It is simply the Fourier transform of x of t, that is x of j omega. So this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of j omega multiplied by x of j omega d omega. But we know product of a function and its complex conjugate simply gives us the square of its magnitude. Therefore, we can write RHS is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega multiplied by x conjugate of j omega gives us magnitude of x of j omega squared d omega, which is what we have written over here. Now let us understand what it means. What we have on the left hand side is integral from minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of t whole square dt, which is nothing but the energy of a signal x of t. This is by definition the energy of a signal x of t. So what this relation means is that the total energy of a signal can be determined in two ways. One is by computing the energy per unit time, that is magnitude of x of t squared, and integrating over time, which is what we're doing on the left hand side. Or the other way is compute the energy per unit frequency, that is magnitude of x of j omega squared divided by 2 pi, and integrate over all frequencies, which is what we have done on the right hand side. Both will give us the energy of our signal x of t. To understand this better, let us solve a problem. We have to evaluate the energy of a signal x of t given as E is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of t whole square dt for the Fourier transform that is given in the figure. So x of t is not given, Fourier transform of x of t, x of j omega is given, and we have to calculate its energy. Now, according to Parseval's relation, there are two ways of finding energy of a signal. Either you can do it in the time domain or you can do it in the frequency domain. So you don't really need x of t to calculate the energy of x of t. You can do it directly from its Fourier transform also. So we're going to use this expression to find that. We have 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity square of magnitude of x of j omega d omega. Now, magnitude of x of j omega is 0 from minus infinity to minus 1 and from 1 to infinity. From minus 1 to minus 0.5, its value is root pi. From minus 0.5 to plus 5, its value is root pi by 2. And from 0.5 to 1, it is again root pi. So we have to integrate in parts and there will be three parts. One from minus 1 to minus 0.5, one from minus 0.5 to plus 0.5, and one from 0.5 to 1. So we can write E is equal to 1 by 2 pi. The first part is integral from minus 1 to minus 0.5. We need magnitude of x of j omega squared. Magnitude of x of j omega from minus 1 to minus 0.5 is root pi. So square of that is pi. So pi d omega plus integral from minus 0.5 to plus 0.5. Here the magnitude is root pi by 2. Squaring, we get pi by 4 d omega plus integral from 0.5 to 1. Magnitude is root pi, square is pi, So pi d omega. Now this becomes 1 by 2 pi. Pi is a constant, pi can come out. Integral d omega is omega, limit from -1 to -0.5. Plus pi by 4 is a constant, it can come out. Integral d omega is omega, limit is from -0.5 to +0.5. Plus pi is a constant, it can come out. Integral d omega is omega from limit 0.5 to 1. We get 1 by 2 pi multiplied by pi into giving upper limit -0.5 minus lower limit is -1. So -0.5 minus -1 is +0.5 or 1 by 2. So we get pi by 2 plus pi by 4 multiplied by upper limit is 0.5, lower limit is -0.5. So 0.5 minus -0.5 is just 1. So this is multiplied by 1 plus pi into upper limit is 1, lower limit is 0.5. So 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5 or 1 by 2. So this is 1 by 2 pi multiplied by, adding all of these, we get 5 pi divided by 4. Pi and pi gets cancelled. So this is 5 divided by 8. Energy of the signal x of t is 5 by 8 units. Let us solve another problem. Here we have to evaluate the energy of x of t again, and they have given the Fourier transform x of j omega. X of j omega is minus j root pi from -1 to 0, and it is plus j root pi from 0 to 1. We will use Parseval's relation again to find the energy directly from x of j omega. It is 1 by 2 pi integral from -infinity to infinity magnitude of x of j omega squared d omega. Here again we'll have to integrate in parts. We'll do from -1 to 0 and then from 0 to 1. So E becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from -1 to 0. Here x of j omega is minus j root pi. So its magnitude is minus root pi. We need the square of minus root pi d omega plus integral from 0 to 1. Here x of j omega is j root pi. Its magnitude is root pi. We need the square of root pi d omega. Now this becomes 1 by 2 pi. Square of minus root pi is pi. And pi is a constant, so we can take it out. Integral d omega is omega. Limit is from -1 to 0. Plus, again root pi square is pi and it's a constant. It can come out of the integration. Integral d omega is omega. Limit is from 0 to 1. So this becomes 1 by 2 pi. Pi multiplied by upper limit is 0, lower limit is -1. 0 minus -1 is +1. So pi into 1 plus pi multiplied by upper limit is 1, lower limit is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. So pi multiplied by 1. So this is simply 2 pi by 2 pi, or energy of the signal is 1 unit. The next property we have to learn is convolution property. Let us take two signals h of t and x of t. Let us say y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t. We already know that this will be equal to integral from -infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau. Now, according to convolution property, if y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t, then Fourier transform of y of t, y of j omega will be equal to the product of Fourier transforms of x of t and h of t. That is x of j omega into h of j omega. This means that convolution in the time domain corresponds to multiplication in frequency domain. Let us try to prove the relation. We have to prove that if y of t is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau, that is convolution of x of t and h of t, then y of j omega will be equal to the product of x of j omega and h of j omega. Let us start by defining y of j omega. Y of j omega will be integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. But y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t. So we can write this is integral from minus infinity to infinity. Integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let us rearrange this a little bit. I'll remove the brackets and I will put dt over here. Now this corresponds to d tau and this corresponds to dt. I am going to change the order of integration. I will take the yellow one first and then the pink one. We'll do the inner integration first and then the outer one. But the inner one is with respect to t and we have x of tau here which doesn't have anything to do with t. So let us take it out of the yellow integration. H of t minus tau has t in it, so it has to stay inside. E raised to minus j omega t is also a function of t, it has to stay inside. We have to evaluate this integration first, so let us take that out. We have a t minus tau here. Let us call it u. When t ranges from minus infinity to infinity, u will also be from minus infinity to infinity. If we differentiate on both sides, we get dt minus d tau is equal to du. D tau is 0 because tau here is a constant, so dt will be equal to du. So the integral becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t minus tau is u, e raised to minus j omega t is u plus tau du. We can split this into two. It will be the product of e raised to minus j omega u and e raised to minus j omega tau. Now the integration is based on the variable u, so e raised to minus j omega tau can come out of the integral. Now we got integral from minus infinity to infinity h of u e raised to minus j omega u du. U is the variable to which we are going to give the limit minus infinity to infinity. So it doesn't matter what we call it. Let us call it t. So this is integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t e raised to minus j omega t dt, which is nothing but Fourier transform of h of t or h of j omega. So this is equal to e raised to minus j omega tau multiplied by h of j omega. Let us put it back into our first equation over here. Then that equation will become integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau. This whole integral will be e raised to minus j omega tau h of j omega. So we have e raised to minus j omega tau h of j omega d tau. Again, the integration here is based on the variable tau. H of j omega doesn't have anything to do with tau, so we can come out of the integration. Now here we have integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau e raised to minus j omega tau d tau. We can call the variable tau t if you want. Now what we have over here is simply the Fourier transform of x of t or x of j omega. So we can conclude that y of j omega is simply h of j omega multiplied by x of j omega. Let us take an example. Consider an LTI system whose impulse response is h of t. It is equal to delta of t minus t naught. Now, if I give an input x of t, you can easily tell me the output. The output will be x of t minus t naught. But let us try to check it using convolution property now. The impulse response h of t is delta of t minus t naught. So we can write its frequency response by taking the Fourier transform of h of t. Frequency response will be h of j omega, and it will be the Fourier transform of delta of t minus t naught. We know Fourier transform of delta of t is 1. What we want is the Fourier transform of delta of t minus t naught, which has a time shift. And from the time shifting property, we know it is going to be e raised to minus j omega t naught multiplied by Fourier transform of delta of t, which is 1. So h of j omega here will be e raised to minus j omega t naught. Assume our input is x of t and its Fourier transform is x of j omega. According to convolution property, Fourier transform of the output y of t, y of j omega is going to be the product of x of j omega and h of j omega. So here it is going to be x of j omega multiplied by h of j omega is e raised to minus j omega t naught. But according to time shifting property, we have learned that Fourier transform of x of t minus t naught is e raised to minus j omega t naught x of j omega. That is what we have over here. So if y of j omega is e raised to minus j omega t naught x of j omega, then y of t will be x of t minus t naught. This proves that convolution in time domain is equivalent to multiplication in frequency domain. Let us solve a problem now. We have to find the frequency response of a differentiator using Fourier transform. We can relate the input and output of a differentiator like this. The output y of t is the derivative of x of t, d by dt of x of t. Let us use the differentiation property to find out y of j omega. If y of t is d by dt of x of t, then y of j omega is j omega x of j omega. But by the convolution property that we just learned, y of j omega is the product of h of j omega and x of j omega. Comparing the both equations, we can see x of j omega has to be equal to j omega. H of j omega is j omega. Let us solve another question now. We have to find the frequency response of an integrator using Fourier transform. Input and output of an integrator can be related like this. Output y of t is equal to integral from minus infinity to t x of tau d tau. Let us use integration property to find out the Fourier transform of y of t, that is y of j omega. Y of j omega according to the property is 1 by j omega x of j omega plus the dc component pi x of 0 delta of omega. We have x of 0 delta of omega there, but this will be equal to x of j omega delta of omega. Because delta of omega is an impulse function who is non-zero only at omega equal to 0. So even if you write x of j omega, this will work only if omega equal to 0. So you are essentially taking x of 0. Now we have x of j omega here and here. Let us take it as common. X of j omega multiplied by 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. But according to convolution property, y of j omega will be the product of h of j omega and x of j omega. Comparing with this equation, h of j omega will be 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. Let's write it down. H of j omega, which is the frequency response of an integrator, is 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. One thing we can note here is this. We had found out Fourier transform of u of t earlier and we got 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. Here for an integrator, we got its frequency response is 1 by j omega plus pi delta of omega. It means its impulse response has to be u of t. And it is true because we have seen it in our previous videos. Let us solve another problem. Here we have to compute the output of an LTI system with impulse response h of t to an input x of t. H of t is given, it is e raised to minus at u of t, a is positive. X of t is e raised to minus bt u of t, b is positive. Let us solve this using Fourier transform. There are two things that can happen here. The first case is when a is not equal to b. We have h of t is e raised to minus at u of t. We already know the Fourier transform of that. H of j omega will be 1 by a plus j omega. Similarly, x of t is e raised to minus bt u of t. So, x of j omega will be 1 by b plus j omega. So, by using convolution property, we can write y of j omega, Fourier transform of the output y of t will be h of j omega multiplied by x of j omega, that is 1 by a plus j omega multiplied by 1 by b plus j omega. Now, to find out y of t, we have to use inverse Fourier transform. But to do that, first we have to write it in this form: a divided by a plus j omega plus b divided by b plus j omega. If we can do that, then it will be easier for us to calculate the inverse Fourier transform. So to do that, we will use partial fraction expansion. We can write 1 by a plus j omega multiplied by 1 by b plus j omega is equal to some constant a by a plus j omega plus some other constant b divided by b plus j omega. Let's add them on the right hand side. We get ab plus j a omega plus ab plus j b omega divided by a plus j omega multiplied by b plus j omega. In the numerator, we have 1 on the left hand side and we have this whole thing on the right hand side. In the denominator, here we have a plus j omega into b plus j omega. Here also we have the same. So if the denominators are equal, then the numerators should also be equal. So we can write 1 is equal to ab plus j a omega plus ab plus j b omega. Let us group the real terms together and the imaginary terms together. We get ab plus j times a omega plus b omega. We can equate the real part and imaginary part from RHS and LHS, but LHS is simply 1. It doesn't have an imaginary part. So on the right hand side also, we shouldn't have an imaginary part. That means this has to be equal to 0. A omega plus b omega is equal to 0, or omega multiplied by a plus b is equal to 0. That means a plus b is 0 or a is equal to minus b. If we equate the real part, ab plus ab should be equal to 1. Let's write it down. ab plus ab is equal to 1. But a is minus b or b is minus a. So we can write it like this. ab minus a is equal to 1, or a multiplied by b minus a is equal to 1, or we get a is equal to 1 by b minus a. But b simply is minus a, so we can write down b is equal to minus 1 by b minus a. Now y of j omega is a by a plus j omega plus b by b plus j omega. Let us use this for a and this for b. Then y of j omega becomes 1 by b minus a multiplied by 1 by a plus j omega minus 1 by b plus j omega. We need the inverse Fourier transform of this. So y of t is 1 by b minus a is a constant. Let's keep it out. Inverse Fourier transform of 1 by a plus j omega minus inverse Fourier transform of 1 by b plus j omega. We already know inverse Fourier transform of 1 by a plus j omega is e raised to minus at u of t. So for 1 by b plus j omega, it will be e raised to minus bt u of t. So we can easily write y of t here is 1 by b minus a multiplied by e raised to minus at u of t minus e raised to minus bt u of t. So let's keep u of t here as common. Now this is only if a is not equal to b. Case 2 where a is equal to b. In that case, h of j omega will be 1 by a plus j omega and x of j omega will also be 1 by a plus j omega because b is equal to a. Then if we use the convolution property, y of j omega is the product of these two. So it will become 1 by a plus j omega squared. Now to find out y of t, we have to find the inverse of 1 by a plus j omega whole square. For that, we'll use a trick. 1 by a plus j omega whole square can be written like this. It is j d by d omega of 1 by a plus j omega. Let us check if it is true. What is d by d omega of 1 by a plus j omega? It will be minus 1 by a plus j omega whole square multiplied by d omega of j omega, that is j. We have minus j in the numerator here. Let us take it to the other side. So 1 by minus j, and here we will have 1. But 1 by minus j is plus j. So we get j d by d omega of 1 by a plus j omega is 1 by a plus j omega whole square. Now to find y of t, we can use the differentiation property in frequency domain, according to which j d by d omega x of j omega is the Fourier transform of t x of t. Therefore here y of t will be t x of t, which is t e raised to minus at u of t. Let us move on to our next property, that is multiplication property. We already learned that convolution in time domain corresponds to multiplication in frequency domain. According to multiplication property, if y of t is the product of x1 of t and x2 of t, then Fourier transform of y of t, which is y of j omega, can be written as 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta, x2 of j omega minus theta d theta. Now this is actually of the form integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of tau, x2 of t minus tau d tau. This is the equation to find convolution of x1 of t and x2 of t. So this is the equation to find the convolution of x1 of j omega and x2 of j omega. Now we have to prove this. Let us start by defining y of j omega. It is integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. But according to the definition, y of t is the product of x1 of t and x2 of t. Now let us use synthesis equation to write x1 of t. x1 of t is integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta e raised to j theta t d theta. Instead of taking omega, I have taken theta so that I can differentiate between different terms. Now we will replace x1 of t over here with this expression. So we get y of j omega is integral from minus infinity to infinity. x1 of t becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta e raised to j theta t d theta. Then we have x2 of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Let's remove these brackets. And I'm going to take d theta from here and put it here. Now this corresponds to dt and this corresponds to d theta. I want to do the integration corresponding to t first, so I am going to change the order of integration. Let us do this integration first. Now it is based on the variable t. x1 of j theta doesn't have anything to do with t, so it can come out of that integration. Now here we have e raised to j theta t, here we have e raised to minus j omega t. Let us put them together. We can combine them by adding their exponents. It becomes e raised to minus j omega minus theta t. If you had integral from minus infinity to infinity x2 of t e raised to minus j omega t dt, you would call it x2 of j omega. Here you have integral from minus infinity to infinity x2 of t e raised to minus j omega minus theta t. The only difference is here you had omega and you called it x2 of j omega. Here you have omega minus theta, so you should be calling it x2 of j omega minus theta. So our y of j omega now becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta x2 of j omega minus theta d theta, which is the convolution of x1 of j omega and x2 of j omega. So multiplication in time domain corresponds to convolution in frequency domain. So we can interchange convolution and multiplication here. Multiplication in time domain corresponds to convolution in frequency domain. Now let us use synthesis equation to write x1 of t. It will be 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta e raised to j theta t d theta. Instead of taking omega, I took theta because it will help us recognize which terms came from which equation when we put it over here. So using this, we can write y of j omega is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity. x1 of t is 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta e raised to j theta t d theta x2 of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. 1 by 2 pi is a constant. Let us take it out of the integral. Let us remove the brackets. Now I will take d theta from here and put it over there. We have two integration. This corresponds to dt and this corresponds to d theta. Let us change their order. We'll do the integration with respect to t first and then theta. Here x1 of j theta is a function of theta. It doesn't have anything to do with t, so it can come out of the pink integration. We have e raised to j theta t here and e raised to minus j omega t. Let us put them together. We can combine them by adding their exponents. It will become e raised to minus j omega minus theta t. Now take a look at this integration. If you had integral from minus infinity to infinity x2 of t e raised to j omega t dt, you would call this x2 of j omega. What we have here is entirely the same, except instead of omega, we have omega minus theta. So if you call this x2 of j omega, you should be calling this x2 of j omega minus theta. Then we can write y of j omega like this: 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x1 of j theta x2 of j omega minus theta d theta, which is what we have over here. So we can conclude that multiplication in time domain corresponds to convolution in frequency domain. Let us solve a problem based on that. It is given that S of j omega is the spectrum of S of t, that is, S of j omega is the Fourier transform of S of t. It is given P of t is cos omega naught t. We have to sketch the spectrum R of j omega of R of t being the product of S of t and P of t. S of j omega is given over here. First of all, it is given that P of t is cos omega naught t. We have already found the Fourier transform of cos omega naught t. It looked like this. We had two impulses at minus omega naught, and the amplitudes were pi. From here we can write P of j omega will be pi delta of omega plus omega naught plus pi delta of omega minus omega naught. The first term corresponds to this impulse and the second term corresponds to this impulse. R of t here is the product of S of t and P of t. We have to find out R of j omega. So according to multiplication property, R of j omega will be the convolution of P of j omega and S of j omega. So we can write R of j omega is 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity S of j theta P of j omega minus theta d theta. Now P of j omega is pi delta of omega plus omega naught plus pi delta of omega minus omega naught. So we can write P of j into omega minus theta will be pi delta of omega plus omega naught minus theta plus pi delta of omega minus omega naught minus theta. Let us use this in the place of P of j into omega minus theta. So this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity S of j theta multiplied by pi delta of omega plus omega naught minus theta plus pi delta of omega minus omega naught minus theta. Let us now split the terms into two. So we get 1 by 2 pi. The first integration will be integral from minus infinity to infinity S of j theta pi delta of omega plus omega naught minus theta d theta plus integral from minus infinity to infinity S of j theta pi delta of omega minus omega naught minus theta d theta. Now delta of t is the same as delta of minus t. Time reversal doesn't work for impulse function because it already only has value at t equal to 0. So instead of writing delta of omega plus omega naught minus theta, we can write delta of theta minus omega plus omega naught. Similarly, here we have omega minus omega naught minus theta. We can change it to theta minus omega naught. There is a pi here, let us take that out. But then pi and pi will get cancelled. We'll only have 1 by 2. Now let us take a look at the first integration. We have to integrate from minus infinity to infinity S of j theta multiplied by delta of theta minus omega plus omega naught. Consider integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t delta of t minus t naught dt. We know delta of t minus t naught has non-zero value only at t equal to t naught. At every other value of t, it is going to be 0. So you don't really have to integrate everywhere because except at t equal to t naught, this product is going to be 0 because delta of t minus t naught is 0 everywhere else. So all you have to do is take the value of the product at t equal to t naught, that is x of t naught. This is the same thing happening here. Instead of x of t, we have s of j theta. Instead of t here, we have theta. Instead of t naught, we have omega plus omega naught. So instead of x of t naught, the output will be s of j omega plus omega naught. Omega plus omega naught will be our t naught. So this becomes half. First integration becomes s of j into omega plus omega naught. Similarly, the second integration is also the same form, s of j theta x of t. Theta minus omega naught corresponds to t minus t naught. Theta corresponds to t. Omega minus omega naught corresponds to t naught. The output is x of t naught. So here the output will be s of j into t naught is omega minus omega naught. Now s of j omega is given over here in the graph. What we have here is s of j into omega plus omega naught. It is just a shifted version of s of j omega. It is shifted omega naught units to the left. Similarly, s of j into omega minus omega naught. It is again a shifted version. S of j omega is shifted omega naught units towards the right. Another thing that has happened is it is amplitude scaled by a scaling factor 1 by 2. So its magnitude, which is a originally, will now become a by 2. On a graph, this will look like this. We have an amplitude scaled version of s of j omega at minus omega naught and plus omega naught. I said amplitude scaled because you can see its amplitude became a by 2 from a. Now s of j omega was from minus omega 1 to omega 1. So when it was shifted omega naught units towards left, the leftmost point which was at minus omega 1 is now at minus omega 1 minus omega naught. The rightmost point which was at omega 1 is now at omega 1 minus omega naught. Similarly, when it was shifted omega naught units towards right, the leftmost point which was at minus omega 1 is now at minus omega 1 plus omega naught. And the rightmost point which was at omega 1 is now at omega 1 plus omega naught. So that's all about it for today. See you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.